Thank you very much, Emily. Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening from wherever you are joining us. Thank you for joining us in this webinar. My name is Pablo Chacon, and I am one of the product managers here at Microsoft and one of the leads of our security advisors community. And today we're bringing to you a very interesting topic. We want to show you what is the day of an incident security manager. How does it look like when it's powered by security agents? For today's topic, we have three amazing speakers. First of all, we have Julian Rasmussen. He is gonna be covering one of this showcase. Julian is one of our security MVPs here at Microsoft, focused specifically on security. Then we have JJ Milner. He is gonna present another of these webinars focused on privileged identity management, and he's gonna show us how security agents help us with those scenarios and workflows. But first, we are going to have Ankur Arora, one of our product managers here at Microsoft, giving us some context about security store and security agents and what is that Microsoft is looking to give to our customers and our partners through these experiences. Um, Before we move forward, I wanted to highlight something, and it's the fact that based on a recent survey that was circulated through the Cloud Security Alliance, 46% of security and IT leaders say that their organizations have already experiencing security, compliance, or operational issues. And all of that is mainly because a lot of the work happening in identity security is still manual. And hopefully through today's session, we are going to showcase how security professionals can change this situation and other challenges that they face managing identity security through the use of security agents in our Microsoft Security Store. Without further delay, I would like to pass the mic to Ankur, who is going to give us some context and information about Microsoft Security and our security agents. Ankur, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much, Pablo. Good afternoon, good evening, good morning, everyone. We will spend the next few minutes on where do you discover such agents and solutions. And this is where the Microsoft Security Store comes into play. There is a panel of SMEs on this call. Please do use the Q&A chat to ask any questions, and we will prioritize those questions. Now, taking a step back, what we have realized is in this new world of AI, the SOC is under tremendous pressure. The log volume is growing phenomenally, 250% year on year. Organizations still rely on multiple security tools, on an average about 80 tools for a large enterprise. And what that ends up is a lot of silos of specialization for every tool, and then the inability to really look across tools. This is the second challenge that comes in. 72 minutes, that's the median time today for an attacker to not only get into an organization, but actually start accessing the private data. And this comes in from phishing attacks. Phishing attacks themselves, about 67% of them we have realized are actually leveraging the power of AI. And then when we look at these security tools, what we figure out, or what our SOC analysts actually tell us, is these are amazing security tools, but they're not really equipped for the kind of analytics that a modern SOC operator today actually requires. And this is what has really made us rethink about how we should look at security in this new era of AI. This is where the Microsoft Security AI platform comes into play. Very simplistically, think of it as a data plane where signals from Microsoft security products and those 80 odd applications or whatever number of applications a customer might have, they actually come into a normalized data lake. Now, this data plane also goes ahead and powers Sentinel as a SIEM. This is where a lot of investigations happen. But then comes the next plane, which we refer to as the analytics plane. Think of the ability to go ahead and do specific threat hunting, which is based on graphs, or to really start looking at tabular and embedding data. The tools plane resides on top of that, and that is where our customers and partners are able to leverage the capabilities of the analytics and the tools and the data plane. Think of MCP servers over here as a modality. Think of semantic search over here as a modality. And on top of everything is the agents plane. Agents plane is where human and AI meet. Agents are essentially companions, agents that can see because of the lake, agents that can think because of the graph capabilities, and agents that can act because of security copilot capabilities. So this is how we envision the plane of security in this new era of AI. And what actually comes in is a curated experience for our customers to discover the right kind of solutions from Microsoft and Microsoft's partners through the Microsoft Security Store. Uh, Without further ado, let me just quickly jump into the product itself. This is securitystore.microsoft.com. I am going through an authenticated experience right now. I'm signed in with my organization credentials. The first problem that we try to go ahead and solve for our customers is how do they discover the right kind of solutions and agents that can help them improve their cybersecurity posture? So we are hyper pivoting on NIST CSF 2.0 as a standard. And what customers are able to discover over here is a curation of engineering validated solutions from our partners and from Microsoft that help them through multiple functions, categories, and subcategories of NIST. And this typically starts by an organization identifying that they have a gap in their cybersecurity posture and they being able to zoom in to say, here are the functions, categories, and subcategories we need to focus on where the gaps exist. So, for example, let's say my auditor said, hey, your organization has a gap, and it has a gap in protect, identity management, and let's say there is also a gap in detect adverse events analysis. What I would be able to do over here is actually look at a set of curated solutions which deeply integrate with Microsoft security products. These are solutions in a specific category. Let me just hit the refresh one once more. Sometimes the demo gods are not really happy. There we go. And this curated list goes ahead and highlights a few things. One, the solutions that are Azure benefits eligible. So this is where if a customer has an Azure contract with Microsoft and they're looking at Mac decrement, these solutions can help with that decrement. But what this also tells us is, hey, here are free trials available. Here is the integration plane. For example, this solution of Akamai, this goes ahead and integrates with Microsoft Entra External ID as an example. Or there's a solution from Big ID that is also Azure benefits eligible, and it goes ahead and integrates deeply with Purview. So the idea over here is how do we go ahead and help our customers uh, really get to solutions that not just help their cybersecurity posture, but are also deeply integrated with the Microsoft security investments that a customer already has. Uh, the other interesting aspect, and this is what we're going to focus our time on today, is agents. These are agents that are created by Microsoft and Microsoft's partners. These agents have been validated. These agents have been tested in our environment to ensure there's no malicious code. And after those checks and balances, these agents are available for our customers to really go ahead and get a companion to work with them. So, for example, if I am really looking at it from an identity security lens perspective, which is all about today, I actually discovered this agent called Admin Guard Insights Agent. There's a detailed description of what that agent does, but most importantly, what it really helps me focus on is essentially a risk oriented view of which admin is performing what tasks. and just using this as an example, it gives me very clear insights into what is the input that the agent needs, what is the expected output, what is the scope of the agent, and how many security compute units is this agent likely to go ahead and consume. Now, this agent is available at a price point of $0 per month. This does consume security compute units. I like the description, and I basically want to go ahead and get it now. This is where the existing billing mechanism between Microsoft and the customers through the Azure billing relationship really steps in. I'm essentially going ahead and leveraging that billing subscription. There's a resource group that I'm entitled to, and then I specify my resource name. And what I'm essentially going to go ahead and do now is I'm going to go through the process of going ahead and acquiring this agent at the specific price point for my organization. I do need to have Azure subscriber role to be able to do that. And that ensures that the actual purchase that's happening is through a person or a role who has the permissions to go ahead and do that. Now, while my order is in progress, I actually go ahead and get the ability to look at all the solutions or agents that I have procured over a period of time. And the fact that it brings me into a single plane for not just managing my solutions, but also my private offers as well as my private solutions. So what we see over here is we went ahead and went through this process of acquiring admin guard insights for our organization. This is pending deployment. It's in progress. Let me just go ahead and view the details of what this looks like. So this is where we are. Now, the interesting thing is that we know that this solution is actually a security copilot agent. It should be running in my security copilot environment. So what we've essentially gone ahead and done is we have created a seamless flow after a solution, an agent is acquired, and the deployment of that agent in the security copilot environment associated with that customer. By the way, if I switch gears and I move to a security copilot admin right now, I actually see this agent is now ready for setup. Let's just go through that process. Now, when I'm going through the process, this is essentially a third-party application that is getting deployed in my environment. So we need to be absolutely clear about what this application can do, what the application can see. So this actually gives me details about what is the trigger, what permissions are needed, what is the identity. It's going to assume my identity when I go ahead and run this. What are the specific plugins? And this is role-based access. And this then gets me to a place where I can go ahead and set up this agent for my organization to use. If I sign in, the agent will now start working on my identity. So this was the journey that we wanted to walk you through because this becomes very relevant as we move to how can you find such agents that can help you as an identity security manager for various jobs that you can leverage them as a part of your workflows. What I will do now is I'm going to go ahead and switch gears and I will go ahead and invite our esteemed MVP, Julian, to essentially walk us through what that journey would actually go ahead and look like for one of the use cases. And what Julian is going to focus on is really the conditional access optimization agent. Julian, with that, over to you.
Thank you, Ankur. So I will just share my screen, going into live demo here. So I hope everything's working fine today. Yes, it does. All right, so I'll be showcasing the conditional access optimization agent. That's an agent that improves the conditional access posture. It analyzes existing policies, sign-in data, security signals, and identifies gaps, risks, and misconfigurations of your entire conditional access setup. So if I jump into Entra Admin Center, and in the left top corner, we have Entra Agents. So I will jump into agents, and from here you see I have activated the conditional access optimization agent. So I will just go through the agent itself first, and then we have a couple of scenarios that we'll look into as well. So this is the front page of the conditional access optimization agent. It has a nice overview, how many protected users it covers, protected apps, sign-in protected, and how much security compute units it's used. So this is for how much is used the last 30 days. So for each run in my environment, which is not a big demo environment, it's 30 users here. So it only uses around 0.3, 0.4 on each run. We also get a nice overview of suggestions that the agent wants us to fix, of policy reviews. We see recent run, if it completed successfully, or errors, and so on. You see here, this is 0.04 SEUs actually, so it doesn't consume a lot when it runs. We have some menus here. We can jump into the activity ones, which is all the runs. You have a list of all the runs back in time, and you will see how many suggestions and SEUs it uses, of course. As we jump into suggestions pane here, we will see all the suggestions that are populated from all the runs. These are some old ones in my demo, so it loaded the two first, and we'll see it has some more that it shows here. And of course, you can do some configuration as well. So in the settings menu, we have a trigger. This is where the agent is set to automatically go once every day. You can have a look at the capabilities. It will have monitoring the users or application. You can turn off one of those. If you just want to monitor applications, then you can do that. We also have a phased rollout. So if it suggests that you deploy a new policy, you can deploy that policy in a phased rollout, meaning that it will create some groups for you, add some users in the staging 1 group and staging 2 group, and so on until you are completely rolled out with a new policy. Of course, you don't have to go into the Entra Admin Center every day to get to see what's happening with your agent. You can have notifications sent directly to Teams. You can select a group or a user. In this case, I've selected one user. You can also have an entire group. And in Teams, then you will add, jump into Teams now, I will have the bot here, the conditional access agent as a bot in my chats. So every day when it runs, I get what's new suggestions that are to do here. So it ran actually today, and it has a new suggestion for me: add unprotected users to existing policy. And from here, you can jump directly into the agent again. So it's a really nice notification feature. On Monday, actually, there were some new features coming out. So I was just asking the developer teams that, can I show this? Of course I could. It's a new public preview feature now, which lets us upload a documentation file from our entire conditional access environment. So I uploaded that into my environment here, and we can see the summary. It has a naming convention, personal-based strategy, create glass accounts, everything you have set into that document. The agent will read it and plan ahead of so that it will be complying for your setup and not creating new policies with a completely different naming convention that you had before. So that's a new feature that came out on Monday. Really cool. We also have plugins for ServiceNow, and there will be other plugins as well. And we have permissions. What permissions does the agent need? So in this case, it created a agent ID, which has read access for conditional access policies, authentication methods, groups, application, devices, and users, and so on. And it also has a write access for creating new conditional access policies in report-only mode. So every newly created policy will only be created in report-only mode, and you as a human needs to actually move it over to production or set out the phased rollout. So there we have it. That's the conditional access optimization agent, how it runs today. And then I have a few scenarios. So scenario 1, the conditional access optimization agent has identified a gap in my environment, meaning that there's a new policy that will secure something that's not secure before. So we'll jump right into the conditional access agent again, and we'll run into the suggestions. And here we have it. We have a new one called turn on new policy to block high-risk agents. So if we open the review suggestion here, we will see what the policy actually are doing, what the impact is. We can also have a pane here for policy impact, which goes through the sign-in activity over time. In my environment, I don't have any to display at this point, but I will show this in the next scenario as well for the policy impact. But for the details, it will show you exactly what it does, and you have it's in the report only mode at now. It blocks high-risk agents, include all agent identities, all apps, and so on. So from here, we can just turn on the policy, and then it will actually turn on the conditional access policy. So if you go into conditional access from here, and we will see the policy down here somewhere. Block high-risk agents for accessing all resources. And you see here also we have you have policies that I've created myself, created by a user, and you have policies created by conditional access optimization agent. And some of them is in report only mode, and some is in on mode, which I have actually turned on. And from here we can go into the policy. We can edit it as a regular one and do changes if you want to do that as well. So that's one of the scenarios that I'm using in an everyday scenario. But the next one is also quite nice. So after we deployed a block device code flow authentication, we had several Microsoft Teams rooms devices that started failing to sign in. And those devices didn't stop signing in immediately when we turned on the block device code flow authentication policy. It actually took 1 or 2 weeks, and the room started acting very strange. So we need to figure out something. So from there, I got a recommendation from the agent that it saw a usual spike in failed sign-ins. So if you jump back to the agent again and go into overview, and we see it here in the view here, recent suggestions, review increased failed sign-in caused by policy, block device code. From here, we can just adjust a bit here. We go into review that one. And here we get a suggestion. We need to review the failed signing caused by the policy. So we have a policy that's causing a lot of failed. So we get a text here saying that, okay, 40% of the signings is actually failing. So that's a big spike after we turn it on. And if you go into policy impact here, we can actually see the data of sign-ins and failed sign-ins. So if I scroll a little down and click on the failed sign-in here, we can also drill down to see, okay, it was my user doing authentication from this application that actually were failing. And from here as well, we can dive into sign-in logs, which moves us over to the regular sign-in logs to drill down further. But it gives us a quick overview of, okay, we have a new policy that's actually are blocking something in our environment. We get a spike of failed sign-ins, and that will get notified in the conditional access optimization agent and also in the Teams for notifications as well. So those were the two examples that I was showing today. I will now hand over to JJ. So I'll stop my sharing.
Thank you very much, Julian, for that amazing demo. If anybody has any questions for Julian or for us at Microsoft, feel free to put your questions in the Q&A feature in Teams. And I see that we have a few of them, so thank you very much. We are going through them, providing answers. Back to you, JJ.
Hi, everyone. Welcome. Certainly been an interesting journey with Security Copilot and the potential that it makes available. Today, I'm going to be talking to you about one of the agents that helps us deal with privileged identity management. And just to level set, to give you guys a bit of background as to what PIM is, how it normally operates, and then why would we need an agent. So privileged identity management from Microsoft, it's an entry capability, and it's designed to enforce zero trust principles so that you have no standing privileges for your administrators. So on a day-to-day basis, when your users, your IT staff are working and they're not doing administrative things, they should not have any privileged roles. And when they need to perform a certain task, maybe they want to reset a user's password, or they want to do something that needs global administrator, then they would go to the privileged identity management interface. They would request access. The privileged identity engine would take them through an approval workflow, which will ask for various criteria depending on the significance of the request. It might just have an MFA challenge. It might ask for a ticket. It might ask for another administrator with a similar level of access to approve it. The various choices that you can set when you configure it. And then on a just-in-time basis, the user will temporarily be given that role for an amount of time, for a session limit, for example, 4 hours. They can then access the application or the target resource for that time, and then automatically those principles are taken away. So this dramatically reduces the attack surface area in your tenant. It's an incredibly powerful feature, and it's widely used. However, when you get into larger environments or complex environments, you start to get friction. Users get tired of having to ask for permission every time they need something, and they start to take shortcuts. So when you set up privileged identity management, you can either make a user eligible for the role, in which case they'll go through the approval process I just described, or they can be permanently assigned for a period of time. Maybe that's a month, maybe that's 3 months. And what we tend to see in environments is that either they're being permanently assigned as opposed to being eligible, or users who are doing the approvals are rubber stamping it. As soon as they see a request come through, they don't have a look at what role is being asked for, they don't have a look at the reason, and they rubber stamp it. Or they create privileged identity management groups that have multiple roles altogether. And so people are overprivileged, or a few admins have a lot of security rights in those privileged identity management roles. And so you don't necessarily have the segregation of duties, which undermines the idea of having a reduced attack surface area. And so to trawl through that as a security consultant, as an identity manager, especially when there are a large number of admins, large number of roles, historically I would have had to go through the audit logs. And this would be pushing this into Sentinel and running KQL queries, outputting this to Excel and pivoting it. It's not really human readable. It takes a long time to extract this data. And it's quite hard to build the queries to identify patterns that you're not necessarily expecting to see. And this is where the agent really comes in. So I ran in advance of today's session the privileged identity management agent It took 5 minutes and 14 seconds, so you can see why I'm not doing a live demo here. It trawls through a lot of data. And as soon as I was finished with the report, I got a very nice executive summary and identified 74 activations across 10 users for me. It categorized the roles, the timing patterns, the top requests in seconds, and it's really given me a very clear operational guideline of what's happening in my privileged identity management environment. It's also told me that I've got 0 failed activations, and a junior administrator might see 0 fails normally and assume that the environment is safe and secure. But what Copilot has identified for me is an anomaly, that this could indicate login failures, broken SIEM indications, or that a sophisticated threat actor is masking their reconnaissance. It's also identified that in this case, there's a guest user who doesn't have MFA registered. That's really a significant risk. Not as uncommon as you might think. There are often external consultants who are guests in the 1,200 tenants that I'm responsible for. And I regularly come across situations where Entra is delegating the MFA processing to the target tenant. So this is something you want to watch out for. And in this tenant as well, we've got 4 users who are doing the majority of the activations, and that's a prime area of concern for segregation of responsibilities. I quite like the way that it presents the information. Instead of looking at Excel tables or queries in Sentinel, I can actually see who the distinct roles are, the users with the distinct roles, how many activations they've got. I could push it out to Excel. I'm not going to show you in this demo, but I could zoom in to this and look at times of the day to see if there were any sort of patterns as well that I might need. Now, what I did was, and this for me was the real wow moment, in the interactive session, I typed in, provide me a PowerShell script to fix the issue. And it generated a comprehensive set of PowerShell commands for me for the various components that I could use to build my scripts. And these had context specifically for my groups, my naming conventions, my users, and targeted the specific users that were identified by the agent. It also helped me close the loop from a governance perspective, because I wanted to audit the privilege role assignments that were granted to these users. I wanted to do a global administrative review using Microsoft Graph, and I generated these commands to monitor the audit logs for future bypasses. So it's not just about looking back, it's also about setting up alerts in PIM so that whenever this happens and there's a highly privileged activation, that I have a mechanism for alerting me when that happens. And then I said to it, based on the findings, provide me a comprehensive action plan to address all of this. And there's actually 17. I'm showing you the first couple that it presented to me. So it expanded the query into this 12-step remediation plan. It didn't just look at code, it looked at process. It covered everything from the immediate technical blocks to the long-term incident response tabletop exercises that I might do, starting with the MFA for the guest user and progressing forward. It also helped me do advanced monitoring and user behavioral analysis. So it helped me generate the precise queries that I would need to push these alerts into my security systems. I'm also involved in ISO 27001 audits. Incident management and analysis is one of the requirements for ISO compliance. and the review of your risks according to the CIA scoring risk analysis table. So that's confidentiality, integrity, and availability. This is always a challenge, especially when you've got a large amount of data. And I asked the agent, I said, there are risks implementing the changes. This is the 12-step change plan that it recommended. Help me understand and plan for those risks using that CIA classification. And so just showing you the very first example, the MFA enforcement for all users and the reduction of the concentration of privileged, highly, the reduction in the concentration risk of only having 4 people with all those privileges. It identified it and mapped it against the CIA matrix. And this is really useful because I could export this to a markdown file, export it to Excel, and then I've got the evidence for the auditors when they come to audit me for my incident management. I don't have to start taking them through my security systems. I don't have to take them through my incident management platforms. Just whenever I perform an analysis, I export the file, keep that on hand, and no doubt you could extend these agents to automate the process as well. So really, really useful to bring together the security teams and the compliance teams. Normally those two teams are segregated. Just to show you how this would map out in terms of a document that I might share with the rest of the team, it prepared this for me as well. So not just giving me the high level, going into a lot of detail around the risk, the impact, the mitigation for each of the different aspects of the CIA matrix. And then I asked it after this, I said, please tell me, give me a list of all the privilege role assignments in the tenant. That took 43 seconds. So now we're into sort of an agile process. I finished my planning. I'm starting to do some work. And this final query revealed a massive architectural blind spot for me. Despite this deploying, 47 privilege roles were permanently assigned via direct and group-based assignments instead of being eligible. And I've got non-human identities like service principals for email signatures and compliance tools, holding standing directory reader rights. And this completely bypassed the just-in-time access. So really, really useful to be able to see this data and get access to it incredibly quickly. So as you can see, Security Copilot took us from a confusing pile of telemetry to understanding the critical flaws in our deployment, and allowed us to instantly generate the code to fix it, to map the business risk, and to build a framework that supports a robust and scalable compliance framework.
Excellent. Thank you very much, JJ, for that great presentation and to go in depth on everything that the agent did and why. If you want to connect with JJ here, you have your his information. And JJ, if you could move forward. Here, we have a number of additional resources for all of our attendees. First of all, you have the URL to try activate security agents today from Security Store. You can either capture the QR code or you can copy the URL that you have on the screen. Then, if you are a partner or a software development company or a system integrator, and if you want to explore on how to create agents and publish them in security in our security store, here you have the information. We have a Security Copilot developer toolkit that anybody, also our customers, can take a look and to learn how to create agents and place them in security store. And finally, many of our security experts are going to be attending RSA, including Ankur, who you just heard from in this presentation. So if you are attending RSA in San Francisco in a couple of weeks, and if you would like to meet with Ankur or other security professionals here at Microsoft, please let us know by signing up on this form here on the screen. You can also capture the URL or the QR code. And with that, Ankur, JJ, and Julian, any final words for our attendees today?
Thank you so much, JJ. Thank you so much, Julian. Pablo, thank you. You know how to reach us. We would really encourage an active conversation beyond just the cities.
Excellent. Thank you. And I want to remind everybody that next week, a week from today, we are hosting a similar session like this, but this time we are focusing on identity governance scenarios. And you will have the opportunity to also hear from JJ and Julian on those amazing scenarios. We want to make sure that everybody has an opportunity to see the diverse set of scenarios and the diverse set of security personas that our agents can help in their daily jobs. Um, Without any further notification, I want to thank again JJ, Julian, and Ankur. Thank you very much for your time today. But most importantly, to our community attending this call, thank you very much for giving us your time. Thank you for your questions. We have, I think, had the opportunity to answer all of them. And finally, I want to remind everybody that if you have expertise in our security products and you would like to have the opportunity to influence their future, please join our security advisors community. Emily, I think that you could place the URL of where to find more information here on the chat or the questions. And again, if you are interested on giving us your input on making sure that your voice is included in our engineering decisions for our products, feel free to join. Thank you very much, everybody. And Emily, anything final that we need to mention?
No, just wanted to say thank you again, everybody, for joining today. And as Pablo mentioned, I just added that last link to join our Security Advisors program if you are interested, like Pablo said, in making a difference in our products and our roadmap. And then as well, I added those links that Pablo was just sharing for visiting the Microsoft Security Store, for registering to meet us at RSA, as well as for partners, that toolkit. So thank you, everybody, so much. It was great to have you, and we hope to see you again soon. Goodbye.